Welcome to my podcast. This is episode 1, and I'm really glad you're here. In this series, we will discuss a topic that I am passionate about, inspiring more girls to pursue STEM, which stands for science, technology, engineering, and mathematics. We will also explore ways to encourage them to step into leadership roles and enter spaces where they have been quietly telling themselves, "I don't belong here." Before we dive in, let me share a little about myself. I teach business math at the college level, and over the years, I've worked with hundreds of students, many of whom come into my class already convinced of one thing, that they're not math people. What has surprised me the most is how often this belief manifests in very specific ways, particularly among female students. In this first episode, I'd like to share a small but significant moment from my classroom, one that completely changed how I view confidence, identity, and learning. On the first day of every semester, I tell my students, "You're going to need a scientific calculator." That's pretty standard. Then I take mine out. It's hot pink. Every single time, without fail, my students laugh. I usually respond with something like, "Yours doesn't have to be pink. It can be any color." At first, it's just a moment, a laugh, a reaction, and we move on. But then something interesting started to happen. A week or two later, a few students would show up with the exact same calculator, same color, same style. Over time, I began to notice a pattern. The students who bought the pink calculator were often the same ones who later told me, "I'm not good at math," or "I've always struggled with math." Most of the time, though not always, it was female students. At first, I didn't think much of it. But when you've been teaching for years, you start to recognize when something isn't random. And this kept happening. Different semesters, different groups, same pattern. Naturally, I became curious about it. What does a pink calculator have to do with confidence in math? It doesn't make you better at solving equations. I wish it did. I would have recommended it a lot sooner. But clearly, something else was going on. And the answer didn't come from a theory. It came from a student. One day, a student said to me, "You don't really look like a math teacher." She meant it as a compliment. I remember thinking, what does a math teacher look like? Because apparently there's an image, and if you don't fit that image, you stand out. At first, I laughed it off, but later, I kept thinking about it because what she was really saying wasn't about me. It was about her expectations. For many students, especially girls, math doesn't feel like a space where they belong. It feels rigid and intimidating, like you have to be a certain type of person to succeed. When they don't see themselves reflected in that image, they disconnect. Sometimes quietly, sometimes early, and sometimes completely. But then they walk into a classroom where the teacher doesn't fit their stereotype. And suddenly, math feels a little less threatening and a little more human. I think what that pink calculator did, as simple as it sounds, is give students permission. Permission to not take math so seriously in a negative way. Permission to feel like they could exist in that space without having to change who they are. For some of them, it became, "If she can do this, maybe I can too." And that moment, that's powerful, because confidence doesn't usually start with mastery, it starts with belonging. Hear why this matters beyond the classroom. When someone believes they're not a math person, it doesn't stay in math. It shows up in whether they pursue certain careers, how confident they feel making decisions, how they think about money, whether they step into leadership roles. So when we talk about empowering girls in STEM, we're not just talking about skills, we're talking about identity. We're talking about rewriting a story they've been telling themselves for years. Honestly, this is a big part of why I started thinking differently about education, not just teaching content, but helping students build a healthier relationship with learning itself. That's something I've been exploring more deeply through my work with Melira, focusing on foundational skills, confidence, and how those connect to real-life decisions. Because math is never just math. The funny thing is, this whole realization started with a hot pink calculator. And yes, I still use it. I'd be a little stressed if I ever lost it. If this is something you've experienced or something you care about, whether as a student, educator, parent, or someone navigating your own path, this podcast is for you. In future episodes, we'll explore practical ways we can support, model, and inspire young women to be more confident, capable, and proactive in their academic and career choices. If that resonates with you, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next episode.